let's talk about the public library. This is where we hope you get most of your materials from, and we hope you become very supportive of your public local library, and also that you use it a lot. In fact, it would be great if you could have library cards to two local public libraries that are in different library systems. So, a public library often is part of a larger network of libraries that have agreed to share their resources with each other. It could be a network of 5 other libraries, 10, 15, it could be statewide. Um, but many times they're smaller, and if you can find one library in one sharing network and another local library in another one, you're actually being able to pull from two. Um, and some states or some counties will allow you to do that if you are a resident of the county or a resident of the state. There are even public libraries that will let you get a card from them, and they are in different states. All right. What we want you to do is we want you to start local. We want you to get a card, make sure that it's a valid card, make sure you have access to the material, you can check it out, have an account, and then explore the library's interlibrary loan system so that you can find a book that maybe belongs to another library, but these libraries are sharing resources, so you can order the loan, order the book, and it'll come into your local library, and you can pick it up in a couple days. But we especially want you to understand the resources you have at your disposal right away through the digital side of the library, the electronic sources that you can download, that you can stream. And these go under different names depending on the parts of the country you're in, and also depending on what the library has decided to spend money on in terms of subscriptions. But I'm talking about Cloud Library, I'm talking about Libby or Hoopla, which are very powerful e-book slash movie, slash audiobook providers. Hoopla and Libby. I would say if your library carries one or both of those, get them. Use those resources. But there are many different types. So even if you don't find a Hoopla or a Libby offering from your library, you may find other audiobook offerings or other movie offerings. So Canopy is a movie streaming platform that is linked to libraries. So once you have your library card, and if your library is using Canopy, has paid a subscription to Canopy, you have basically a ton of movies that you can look through. All right, so there are a lot of electronic material. There's a lot of electronic material available to many people. Sometimes there are libraries that are truly they need help. They need to get better at what they're offering the community. But many libraries want to serve the community, and they want to be well equipped. Of course, it all depends on the community funding, but you'll be surprised at what your library can offer. You'll be surprised at what having dual cards can do, being a card holder or an account holder from two libraries. All right. But again, you're going to have to explore your particular library, and you're going to have to open links and sync accounts and just explore. Your job for the first term of the Associate of Arts is really to get much more familiar with your local library and what they offer you through movies, through books, through ebooks, through audiobooks. And so open up the main page and then start clicking on the departments and start clicking on the pages of pages and go as far as you can. Now, for many of these devices that you want to have on your phone, for many of the resources that you may want to access on your phone, it's going to mean that you have to go to the through the phone. You're going to have to go online to whatever type of phone you have. Whether it's Apple or Android or whatever, you're going to have to go find the app that corresponds to the provider on your library that you can put on your phone. For example, Libby. Libby is a fantastic provider of movies and of audiobooks and ebooks. All right. So the libraries that I'm a member of, they are connected to Libby. Okay. So Libby is also known as Overdrive. And these names change. So we're just using this as an example. And if I want to use Libby on my phone, I need to get my phone. I need to just type in Libby app. My phone's going to go find it, and then I download it onto my phone. It's a free app. Then once the app is on my phone, I open the app, and I find my library, because it has a list of all the libraries that is using Libby, and I can find my library. I click on that on my phone, and then I enter my library card and my PIN, my password. I set up my account. Right, I sync my account because I already have a library account, and now through the app, I'm getting it hooked up to the library account by putting in my library card number, my library account number, and my password. Then you just open it up, and you can search all of that material that you're allowed to search because you're a member of this library, and then you can just download it onto your phone for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I don't know how long, and many times you can renew it. As long as nobody is asking to see it next or hear it next. If there are no holds, you can renew these materials. And learning how to listen to an audiobook on your phone as you drive, as you exercise, as you cook supper, as you do chores, as you take a walk, can really, really help you be much more productive moving through material. And a good book with a good narrator is an incredibly rewarding experience. I would ask you to remember that actually listening to someone recite or read is really the way the vast majority of people accessed books and texts from, I don't know, the 1800s back. The 1800s, 1700s was a very high point of literacy, but the audio version of radio or speeches or of theater of public readings was still very much alive in that realm as well. But even further back, to say 1500 back, that was the way it was done. So you were having a very authentic reading experience if you listen to an audiobook, for what it's worth. But learning how to do that sort of thing, all right. Learning how to watch a movie on your phone in 5-minute chunks. A lot of us prefer to watch a movie just in one sitting. And there's an important movie you need to watch. And you're trying to find time in the week to sit down for 2 hours to watch this movie. Why don't you just hit play and watch 7 minutes? Stop, go do what you need to do, come back, hit play, watch another 5 minutes. Stop, come back, hit play, watch another 10. Do this throughout the week. Before you know it, you'll have watched 3 or 4 movies. We're not going to ask you to watch those many movies, but that's how you can move through this material. And it's a give and take. It might not be your favorite way of accessing that material, but you're getting it done. You're getting it done, right? So there's a blending of the both, right? In our programs, we want you to be entertained because this material creates interest and maintains it. But we also want you to be educated. We want you to be challenged, stretched. We want that learning curve to happen. We want you to grow through the material. So we pick material that creates interest, maintains it, and rewards it. And so you need to remember those 3 words: create, maintain, reward. Interest. Create interest, maintain interest, reward interest. That's your job, is to master those 3 things as you become a better communicator. But we are trying to model texts that have mastered that by bringing this interesting material into the program. So now again, when we say interesting material, we are thinking in terms of a room of 100 people that are literate, smart, interested in personal growth. They pay attention. They're watching things. They're reading things. They're 25, the 20-year-old, 25-year-old, 35, 45, 50, whatever. They're adults and they're growing and they're smart. And if I have a chance to be in front of that room and say, hey, here's a book I want you all to read, I want to judge how many people in the room are going to respond to that. I'm not going on my personal response on something. I'm trying to think of the room. And if 60% of the people are going to engage with this book, I'm going to be like, well, this might work. If I feel like 80% of the people in the room are going to like this movie or this documentary or this book, I'm using it in our program. But if I like a book, but then honestly, when I'm trying to envision the room and feel the room, and I put that book up in front of the room and say, or that movie and say, let's all watch this. If I honestly feel like only 20 or 10 or 15% are going to get engaged, then I have to say, that was just something that interests me personally because of my personal history or the weirdness that we all share in our minds, what makes us who we are. That was a very idiosyncratic and personal response, and I'm not going to bring that into the program because it worked for me, but it's probably not going to work for a lot of people. So there's a rationale for what we picked. There's a rationale why we picked the public library, because you need to be modeling and growing and thinking about strategies to continue your personal, intellectual, empathetic, and communal growth, your communication growth, after you leave our program. This is only the beginning. We're not teaching you content, we're teaching you method. And it's the public library that is giving you the content. And if you realize how you can use that to grow, your education will never stop. And when you're 30 or 40, I would ask you to remember that. Right now you're a certain age, but just imagine where you're going to be when you're 25, when you're 35, when you're 45. If you keep on plugging through material like this and learning how to glean principles out of it and learning how to grow as a rounded thinker, as an empathetic person, and as a good communicator, your growth can be incredibly powerful. And you'll be at a certain point when you're 40 where all of this will start bearing a lot of fruit in your life. And you can use it for good in the community you find yourself in. So it's through your public library, right? That's why we don't enroll you in a regular class. We don't ask you to get textbooks. We do that for a reason. You do not read textbooks throughout life. It's the very, very rare person that sits down after work and reads, a textbook when they're 30, 35, or 40, just on their own. But we all love a good story. We all love an interesting story. And we all love to grow. Let's do it through our public library.